In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to model this bottle cap. Now, but before we go ahead, just a quick intro into what will be, how we're going to achieve this. If I go to the front view, if you look at this model, it seems like it's done in 3 sections. I'm going to start first by building this bottom layer, then I will build this middle layer, then I will complete it with the top layer here. So I'm going to do that by first opening a new file. So make sure you're in the Part Design workbench. I like to save my file. Let me call it tutorial so it doesn't conflict with earlier names. Now we create a new body. This body, we rename it bottom layer. In this bottom layer, then we create a sketch. I want the XY plane. What I want to do now is to create construction lines. I can do that by just toggling on this button, and you see this changes to blue. So there, creates cycle, and this cycle I give it a radius of 13.62. Then I need to create lines. Create these 2 lines just the same way you see it here. Make sure like these lines are, the starting point is always the origin. Select the edges of these 2 lines. Select the y-axis and come to these 2 here, constraint symmetrical. Now these 2 objects are now connected. I set an angle here. The angle should be 3.52. And I can set a length here. The length is 13.62. Let's hide these dimension lines so they don't get into our way. Create 2 more lines. Make sure also that they are symmetrical along this axis. But now the angle will be 8.61. And the length of the line would be 14.00. We are almost done with the construction line. Just that I need 2 points. 1 point here, 1 point here. I'll repeat the same thing to the corresponding line on the other axis. All I just need to do now is to position the point where this should be 0.25. And this point from here to here should be 0.41. We go ahead and do the same thing here. Oh, sorry. We can do the same thing, hide the dimension line. Now we're done with the construction line. We go back to the Wheel tool, click on this create arc, come to this point here. One of the points is a pivot line. It's going to be the center of this arc, and the first point is going to be the outer point here of the first line, and click this arc until it touches this cycle. Repeat the same thing, the same pivot point, but it's going to start from this other point here and it touches this cycle. Now this second line, the one that is about 13.62 here, we create another arc. Let it touch the edge of the one of this arc here until it touches this line. We repeat the same thing using the same pivot point, touches the end of the arc, and draw this arc until it touches this line as well. And we do the same thing. Now we need to join this. We want to join these sketches. If you get this, don't panic. It just means like there is a redundant constraint. So all you just need to do, click on this number and come along this list here. You're going to see the constraint causing the problem, then delete it. Then we're fine. Let's go ahead and do the same for the last sketch. Yeah, now everything is fine, but I need to close it. I hope you understand what I mean by closing here. The idea of what I mean by closing is if I start at this point, let's assume that I start at a point here. There should be enough parts along the sketch that I can follow that will make me return to the point which I started. So now this is done and I close it. I'll label this bottom base profile. That's done. Then we need to create another sketch. So select the body, create another sketch, select the same plane. I need to create construction line and I don't want this to be my way. So let me close it and hide the base profile with my spacebar key. In fact, I can go ahead and just rename this. This I will call it the top profile. Double click on it, go to the sketch. Now I need to do the construction line. For this, though, it's almost similar, but there's a bit of tweaking here. For instance, I have 2 cycles instead of 1. And the radius of this is 13.23, while the radius of this is 13.33. Remember those lines I was drawing, those 4 lines, so I'm going to do that. First, I draw the first 2. Again, remember, select these houses and bam. The angle is 3.52. The length is 13.62, just like the previous one. I can go ahead and hide these lines. I draw 2 other sets of lines. Make them symmetrical, or yeah, constraint symmetrical. Give it an angle of 8.61. However, the length of this one will be 13.59. Then we need to add 2 points like we did earlier on. And yeah, the position here, this will be 0.25. But this will be 0.51. I'll go ahead and do the same thing here. Okay, I can as well hide these dimension lines, and I'm done with the construction line. So revert back to the normal tool by clicking on this toggle construction geometry. So now what I do now, starting using this as a pivot point with the active selected, where it touches the first cycle, I stop. I use the same thing. Now where it touches the second cycle, I stop. And I just use this point of the second line, just like what I did earlier on. Get the edges of this line, then when it touches, and I repeat the same thing here. So this is me connecting those drawing. Yeah, remember, just like we had the other time, click on this constraint here and delete it, and the object should be fine. Go ahead and complete the other one. It's fine. And now again, remember, it needs to be closed. So we go ahead and close and just draw lines using this construction line as guide to connect it. And now we are done. So we have now both the base sketch, the base profile, and the top profile sketch completed. And what I want to do is that I want to loft between those two shapes. And for me to loft, of course, you know, there needs to be a height to it. So the top profile, oh, sorry, let me rename it here. It doesn't matter. I need to move the top profile up, which is going to be the height of the bottom layer. And this height is 2.25. So all I just need to do is to hide 2.25 in the Z direction. And you see what I did? Profile, come into attachment here and click on this just to increase the height of this of the top profile. Now, with either of these sketches selected, I can now use this tool called Addictive Loft. And the sketch I selected is represented here. Add a section. And yeah, this is the loft. So you see what we did here was just to draw this profile and use the loft tool to join them together. So yeah, so to complete the whole thing, because we just have one segment here, we need 21 of these in a circular array. So to do that, we click on Addictive Loft. We just come here to this PolarPattern and pull this to 21 because we want 21 of that. And this is essentially the bottom layer. This is the bottom layer. So we are done with that. Now I need to create the middle layer. The middle layer is going to be a different approach. So first, let me create the body. call I will name it the middle layer. Now let me show you how I intend to accomplish the middle layer. All I need to do is to get a surface like this, and with the loft tool, I will loft it to meet this circular object above it. But how do I get this? It's simply a cylinder and a tool. With a tool, I'll be able to cut this cylinder so that I get something like this. I can now use the polar tool to get this shape. This cutter object is nothing but the external edge of the top profile. This external edge here, like my mouse is hovering around, and just a rectangular object to close it, because we need to close it to get this shape if we have to cut the cylinder like I showed. So I will go ahead now and create this shape, this profile. Since I already have it in the bottom layer body, so I will try to go ahead and create it from there. I can now export it to the middle layer. So I'll go ahead and show you now. Talking, let's go back and with the bottom layer active, I click on sketch. You see the same XY plane. Let me close this so to hide this polar shape. And I want this on the top profile because that is what I need for this. And I click on the sketch, click on this tool, and just follow each of the segments. You see it highlighted in yellow. So once it's highlighted, click on it. All I just need to do now is to trace it out. Yeah, we're done with the line. But for me to be able to use this the way I want to use it, remember I talked about closing it. So right now it's open. So to close it, I just create use this line tools here. And to ensure that it's fully constrained, just give this a length. It doesn't matter the length of this. And I can close it, I'm done. And it should be on the same position with this, right? So we can just come to the attachment tool, remember, and give this Z translation 2.25. Now let me just hide this top profile. We name this. Let me call it, because I want to use it to cut, EST cutter. Okay. But I don't want the EST cutter here. I just have to do it here because it's easier. I can now move it to this middle layer. I don't want to use this option here. I know there's an option here of moving object to other body. For some reason, I'm getting weird result when I do that. So I just copy it. So it's going to ask me if I want to copy all this. I uncheck this. I only want to copy the EST cutter. I copy it. So when I copy it, I should move it to this middle layer. It's sitting outside of this body, so I can just drag it there, and it's there already. So I can make the middle layer to make it active and hide this other body here. So now all I just need to do now is to create a cylinder of this radius. To do that, I click on the middle layer and click on create sketch. The axis will be the same. I draw a cycle. Now I want this cycle to go just at the edge of this. I'm selecting this vertices here and I'm clicking on constraint point on object. So now I'm sure like this cycle will always be the dimension I want it to be. So I close it and now I can pad the cylinder. Remember again, it will be 2.25. So now I have this cylinder and I have this cutter. So now I can select this cutter or this shape I call cutter and go to the pocket tool. Because right now we can now go ahead and select this pocket tool and create an array of 21 and click OK. And now I just need to get a cycle, then I can loft from this surface to this other cycle. So clicking on this surface as a starting point, I can click on create sketch and I'm going to create this other cycle that I want. So the dimension of this cycle will be 13.25 and I close it. So this cycle is sitting on the same edge on the surface. We should raise it up a bit and we should raise it to about 1.25. Okay, so you see now there is a gap of 1.25 between the cycle and the surface. I can now use the surface and click on the loft tool and add section, which I'm just going to add a cycle. And we're just going to wait and the loft is done and we click OK. This shape here, the reason why we created it was just to use the surface and to loft it to the cycle. So now we're done with it, we can get rid of this shape here. To do that is simple. I just click on the base and click on this pocket tool. Remember the height of this cylinder when we created it was 2.5 and now here we are having 5.0. So let's change to 2.25 and click outside of it. Now this should be gone and it's actually gone, but I think there's a bug in FreeCAD. Anytime you use the loft tool, in this case it didn't hide this additive loft, so we can just hide it by pressing the space key. And now we have the middle layer, but of course it needs to have a thickness. So we want it to have a thickness of 4.25. Ideally we should use this tool here, but we run into a problem when we do that. I'm not going to go into details why, but it's something like we can discuss later on. Remember this EST cutter was for this external one here. I can create another cutter for this internal one. So let's just go ahead and do that. So let me hide this first and hide this external cutter. Go ahead and create a sketch. We select this plane. And remember this time around, we need the inner one. So we click on this Now let me bring it up. Let me label this INT cutter. This the cutter needs to be 2.25. Yeah, so now I can hide the top profile. So this is the external cutter, this is the internal cutter. So you see, I will create a temporary body. Let me just name it middle layer internal, INC, internal. So I need to bring this sketch to the middle layer internal, and I will copy it again. And now that this is done, now we go ahead and create this cylinder. Just like what we did earlier on. And we close it. We pad it. Remember the padding is 2.25. Yeah, and we select the internal cuts and just the pocket tool. Yeah, we have the same thing. So remember again, we give it the polar array, and there should be 21. I now draw a cycle. The radius would be 13. So, and we move it up, we move the cycle up by 1.25. And now we can go ahead and do the loft operation. So now remember again, we don't need this space here. We can just select it and remove it with the pocket operator. Yeah, so again, this should be 2.25, not 5. It should be done if it's done, but we don't see that because of what I explained earlier on. This is done. So let me unhide this. So I hope now it's clearer what we're trying to do here. So this is the middle layer, which is what you have. This is the middle layer, which is this, and this is the middle layer internal, which is this new one here. So I hope you can see it. So you see now they've created the two objects being together. We can see the thickness. So we need just this the thickness here. Now we can now go ahead and use this tool here. So make sure that the middle layer is selected, toggle it to active. Then click on this Boolean operator. It's going to ask you to select a body, add a body, and just select, because this is just the only body in the scene. It takes some seconds and is done. What we don't want the fuse operation. We want the cut operation. So we come down here and change it to cut. And now we have the thickness we desired. And we're done with the middle layer. So now let me unhide the bottom layer. Oh, I think, yeah, yeah. Now it's we have these two sections. We have the bottom layer and we have the middle layer. So what I will do now is that I will join them together. And to do that, I will also use the Boolean operation. So with the bottom layer, then I come to this Boolean operation. It has me to select a body. There's only one body here, and is this body. Okay, so now we have this body joined together as one unit. I just click OK to leave this task panel. So we can go ahead and finish it up. Yeah. And now we're done with the difficult part of it. We just need to now do the top layer. With this bottom layer selected, I click on the sketch. So yeah, I'm going to use a different approach here. When I click on the sketch, now instead of selecting this XY plane, I select the XZ plane. So I have the front view, and my sketch, I will do something here. So I come to this view section, I click on it, and we come to this edge here and select this tool here, which is the external geometry, and click on this here. This is the, because I want to reference this point here, the edge here. We're just going to use a polyline tool and create a simple shape here. Just like this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And this horizontal distance should be 0.25. And we can do the same thing. The horizontal distance from here to here should be 0. The length of this should be 13.25. And the distance, the vertical distance from here to the outer edge here should be 0. Yeah. And the height, length of this should be 1.5. 1.5. Yeah. Yep. So with this, we can close it. And I think you know what we're going to do now. We just do a revolution. And yeah. So we just click OK. Of course, now it's not looking like a bottle cap. So what we do is like we select the internal edge here and click on this fillet tool. This fillet tool, and this should be 1.24. Okay. And I can click on this edge here and have another fillet. And this is 1.4999. Yeah, you have it. So let's just go ahead and do some finishing work. So you can just rename it if you want, like a bottle cap. And one thing by just coming here and selecting the fillet, which is the last thing, and where it says refine first part design. So I want to change it to true. And just give it some time, then it's going to refine. Is this done? Oh. And so here you have it. No. So that is it. And yeah, so if there's any question or something that is not clear, just drop it down in the comment section. I'll try as possible to explain as I can. And yeah, so that will be all for now. Thank you. See you next time.